Hi everybody, welcome to the podcast Out of the Well, where young adults take a swing to discover the deeper meaning of life.
Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 3, and today I have Crystal and JJ with me again. And today our topic is going to revolve around this idea: should one follow their dreams? Yeah, so I think before we start, right, we have to kind of define what is these dreams that we're talking about. So if your dream is to, let's say, do drugs, right, then of course I would say this is not what I'm going to talk about for today, okay? So when we say dreams, we mean ambition, we mean what you want to do for a living. Some people would say I want to be an actor, some people say I want to be a singer, some people say I want to start a business, be an entrepreneur. So today we are going to be talking about this topic, alright? So without further ado, I'm going to just lay out this topic to the ground. So what do you guys think? Should one follow their dreams?
Okay, I mean, this is a very big question, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone will ask this question since young, or even now, right? When they are doing something that is very extremely difficult, and then after that, they would think, should they continue on going for it, right? So actually, to break down this big question, I would like to view at what age do we actually solidify our dream, or at what age, right, do we know that that is really what we want to do, with a high degree of certainty, right? Yeah, and then there's another way to look at it is are we good at it? Because the thing is the worse you are at something, then it's harder for you to achieve the dream, right? Let's say I want to be a baker, but then I'm just shit at cooking, right? I mean, currently I am, but I don't want to be a baker, so that's a good thing. But the thing is, if you're actually bad at it, then right now you need much more consideration, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that following one's dreams, at the end of the day, you have to think about your own set of talents as well as your own set of gifts. I think we all are born with certain set of genetics lah. You cannot really change that one. I mean, it's in you. For example, right, my height is around 164. I cannot say I want to be an NBA basketball player. Yeah, it's not gonna make sense. Although there are NBA basketball players that is quite short as well.
You have to train extra hard.
However, it is 1 in a million, that kind of thing. So you have to look at you have to look at the odds that maybe the hands that you're dealt with. Yeah, so following your point of view, if someone sucks at singing and they tell you that I want to be a singer like JJ Lin, I don't think that's gonna make sense.
Yeah, but I think like the thing is that, how to say, I wouldn't say if you're bad at something, that cannot be your dream. Because who am I to dictate what you dream, right? You can dream anything you want. It's just that the steps that you take there will be longer, and it will cost you more in terms of time, money, whatever, right? So if I'm a bad singer, I want to have my own album. Okay lah, if I have a lot of money, then so be it. I record, I release, nobody buy all, but I'm a singer, right? By what I want. So I think it's good points that you have mentioned about how we should be finding our talents. I think that is helpful in helping us shape our dreams lah. But of course, I think to put it out there, you can always have your dream. It's just that if you are less talented in it, the more cost and the more investment you will need to put in before you get there.
So I think that when people think about following their dreams, they would think of it as something risky. Alright? Nobody really thinks of dreams as for example, right, a stable job, people wouldn't call it in a sense a dream. Most of the time, from at least from the people that I know. So some people, when you think about dreams, right, they'll think about things like being the founder of a startup, a successful startup, or like what you guys say, being a full-on bakery shop owner, or basically it involves some sort of risk. And I think the question that a lot of people have, right, is how can I minimize that risk, and have that courage to actually go and pursue my dream. So I think a lot of people also suffer from fear. Right, fear of failure. So in that sense, right, do you guys have any advice that you guys can give to people who have this fear of failure?
Yeah, I think I can have some inputs on that point. I think earlier on we said that everybody can pursue their dream. They just need certain cost, right?
Yep.
So I think minimizing risk is also addressing the cost that come with it. So I mean, I think all of us here are pretty realistic. So I think on the realistic point of view, you will still need to eat and survive as a human being in Singapore, right? So depending on your dream, I think we always have to find ways to fill our dreams. So for example, you may be looking at working part-time jobs in order to have capital to start your company, which I believe Keith will be sharing, can share a bit more later on. Or maybe perhaps it's finding whatever resources you have at this point. I think it's very important for people to learn to play with whatever cards is like that they have lah, rather than trying to complain about cards that they don't, and then they start like comparing with people, and then like, oh, why I don't have this, why I don't have that, I wish I have a rich family so I have money to start my business. I think all those are not the right mindset to have, right? Your dream is yours, then you have to find ways to go and do it, right? Good for you if you have a rich family, then okay, that's this part of your cards, then okay, play it, right? But if you don't, then what's the next card, right? Who are the people around you that is willing to help? Find a mentor, right? Things like that,
Yeah, I really agree. You know, like in poker, there's this saying like you should focus on how to play the cards instead of like what cards do you have. You know, so the thing is like finding the cards that are dealt with, right? Which is like finding maybe your strength, your weakness. You know, what do you like? You know, intrinsically. You know, I think all these are very, very important point to look at, because the thing is like if you have a very strong interest to do something, you know, let's say baking, right? Nobody will pay you to bake, or nobody even asks you to bake, right? You just naturally do it in your free time. You know, that's actually your fuel. So like rain or shine, like whether the grocery shop is like maybe like a few kilometers away, but you'll still go there and buy, you know, your ingredients
That's true.
to bake. You know, so it goes back to one saying, which is a lover will always outwork a worker, right? If it's truly something you're interested in and you're truly having fun, then is that considered working? You know, so I believe that's the dream. You know, to really do what you love, and like the style of activity can fit you. Yeah. So the thing is like even looking at interests, right? It's also very important, because the thing is you can be bad at something, but if you're so interested about it, long enough, right?
You'll become good at it.
Yeah, exactly. You just get better. You know, there's this book by I think it's Angela Duckworth. So it's talking about greed, right? So she was saying the importance of effort. You know, there's this quote that she gives. It's sort of this equation. I realize the saying goes like effort times talent equals to skill. So the thing is like in life you have certain talent, right? That means so how do you define talent is how fast you actually pick up. You know,
right.
Like this new skill, correct? Yeah, that's right. But the thing is like when you're picking up the skill, right, you actually need effort you actually need to do the activity. Right. You know, so that's effort. That's why effort times talent equals to skill. You're bringing that skill, right? And then your skill times effort equals to achievements.
Right.
Yeah, because the thing is, as you get better at doing the thing, you're also doing the thing. Yeah. So it's a bit complex. But the whole gist of it is you just multiply effort twice. You know, and if you're interested, right? If you're really, really very interested in something, like I really believe that that you can just start very far behind others. You know, behind the average. Maybe you want to be a clown, you want to be performing in a circus, right? Then the thing is like you're bad, but you're a very bad juggler. You know, if you're really interested in it, you can be like worse than the average. So that's the starting line. You know, but the thing is, because you're so interested in it, you actually try like 10 times more than the average, and that actually brings you very far, and eventually reach your goal. Yeah.
So on this line of effort, right, I also think that, you know, I think humans in general, right, like for us, we tend to focus too much on the present in a sense. So when we're having a shit time, for example, we find it really hard to project ourselves into the future and think of maybe a more successful or happier scenario. And what this kind of plays out is that when people are trying to work part-time or work for their future, it can seem like a huge drag, because they cannot see the future, and they don't know what it's going to be like. Yeah, so in that case, right, I just want to share an example so that we all can be a little bit more encouraged about this. So when I was starting Lumi lessons, I incorporated a company last year in October. A few months before that, I was working my ass off. So I was teaching around like 10 to 11 students per week. So it's literally like UT, Woodlands. I have one in Tampines. It's literally the whole team,
all around
right?
Singapore.
Yeah, so every day I will travel to different regions just to teach these students. And thankfully, it was okay. Not really thankfully that it was COVID period, but during COVID period, don't blame me for this. So during COVID period, we shifted online. So what that means is that I didn't have to travel so much.
Yeah.
However, I was still teaching a lot during that period. And at that time, I remember asking myself, I'm so drained. When you're teaching primary 5, primary 6 students, you cannot come across as very stern, which is my standard face. Yeah, I cannot come across as very serious or very stern. I must put on a happy face, and I must make them interested and engaged during the lesson, because if not, then it's a waste of time, right? So I remember feeling so tired and so drained, but I remember also trying to motivate myself. At night, I will run scenarios in my head, telling myself that when I start Lumi lessons, when I start a company, I'm actually taking one step forward towards my dream. And I think sometimes we all need that kind of push, right? Sometimes we just need someone to tell us that, it's all going to be worth it. Yeah.
Hey, going back to your topic, right? Like, so you're trying to say that it's very important for us to visualize the small steps we take, as long as we are moving towards the dream.
Correct.
Yeah, but actually, it'll be hard for most people. I'm not sure is it for you, but in my opinion, I think it's actually quite hard for people to have such a very clear and defined dream. Like, since when do you realize that Bloom lessons is something that you would want to commit your life to?
Right. Okay, it's a very interesting question. It's a very deep question in a sense. I have a very profound answer to it. I hope that it doesn't get too chaotic. Like, if it does, then you guys have to help me. Okay, so basically, right, in essence, I believe that human nature, right, we have a need to express ourselves. I think that is intrinsically what is necessary in all of us. And whether is it in the form of art or in the form of, example, in the science field, writing a research paper, you want your name to be there. Alright, you want that sort of recognition. At the end of the day, if we look at everything, I believe that self-expression is intrinsically innate in all of us as human beings. And personally for me, right, I feel that entrepreneurship is the most established or the most expressive form of self-expression. Because at the end of the day, when you build a company from ground up, you dictate its philosophy, right? You dictate the service that it's going to provide, and you dictate the things that it is going to change, the impact that it's going to have. So for me, right, why did I have such a clear vision in that sense? It may seem clear, but actually it's not absolutely that clear at the time. It is just that I knew I needed to have a self-expression in myself, and I wanted to build something that is uniquely mine in that sense, that it can impact others as well.
I see.
Yeah, so I think self-expression is a really good topic. So I think we will deep dive more in future episodes. But I think bringing back to Keith's point where he mentioned about how taking smaller steps, right, to realize your bigger dreams. I think a lot of at times people always also overly place their importance on the very, very end goal of your dreams, right? Sometimes I think dreams is not a very linear way. I think it's not always one way that you go and it always ends up there. Sometimes when you do small things, right, perhaps who knows when you are, for example, for me, I might be working at a cafe part-time, and then even though my dream ultimately was to be an entrepreneur, it might not be a cafe owner in the end.
Right.
But who knows, because while I'm doing that, I found my interest in coffee, and then a cafe is my dream.
Absolutely right.
Right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it's you need to be very focused in the present, also to realize that maybe that isn't the only way that I want. Because maybe what I want is, I want to be my own boss. I don't want to be under somebody else. And it's not because you want to be an entrepreneur of a very, very good startup. It might just be because you want control of your time. Yeah. So I think it's also, you should always be invested in whatever you're doing in the present. Because you don't know what the future holds.
Yes, that's an amazing point.
Correct.
Yeah. That's right.
So on this topic of focusing on the present and really giving your all, right? I'm sure we all have heard a story of Steve Jobs, right? One of my biggest inspirations, lah. I mean, you guys would know. Yeah. So when Steve Jobs, we all know that Steve Jobs dropped out of college. That is the narrative that we hear. And at the time when he dropped out of college, which was Reed College in the US, he actually dropped in on some classes. And one of those classes is actually calligraphy, typography and calligraphy. And at the time, Apple wasn't a concept at all. He had no idea he would be doing business. He had no idea that he would, start a company with Steve Wozniak. And he just entered that class of calligraphy and typography because he was so interested in it.
Right.
And he said this line when he gave a speech at Stanford. He said this line. This was after Apple was already established and all that. He said, if I had never dropped in on that calligraphy class back in Reed College, Apple may never, or the computers may never have beautiful typefaces and typography in it. Yeah, so back to the point of what Krista has mentioned, I totally agree with that. If you are working part-time as a baker, or not just baker, but as a waiter at some restaurant, or if let's say right now you're being a tutor, or let's say you're being a student even, I think it is important to let your intuition learn the things that you're doing, because you may never know how the future is going to play out, and how these skills are going to play out in your own future.
Yeah, I really agree with what both of you said. Like the thing is, you never know like the things you don't know. You know, like in this like Johari window, you know, so it's like there's like the first window is your public self, you know, like the things that you know about yourself and people know about you, you know. Then after you can go to the second window, which is things that you know about yourself but people don't know about you. That's your hidden self, right? So the third window is the things that people know about you but you don't know about yourself. So that's your blind spot. Yep. And the last one is the things that no one know about you and you don't know about yourself as well. So things like we always assume that we know everything, right? But I think this world is actually very complex, because whatever she say, you know, you can work in like maybe a cafe, and then you just started like drinking different type of coffee, started conversing with coffee enthusiasts, right? And that actually sparks your interest in like being like maybe a coffee maker or something like that, right? So the thing is like you should always try to question yourself, and like, is this really what I want? You know, like, is being an entrepreneur what I want, or do I just want autonomy over things in my life, right? My time, like how I spend time with like my loved ones, how I spend time doing things I love. You know, is maybe this entrepreneurship is a subset of the whole big circle that you are actually craving for. And every step you take, you're just getting clearer with what you want.